The FDA has approved the injectable version of Merck's cancer therapy, Keytruda. That drug accounts for nearly half of Merck's revenue. And joining us right now on set is Robert Davis. He is the chairman and CEO of Merck. Also, our very own Angelica Peebles. And welcome. It's good to see both of you. Robert, let's talk about this first of all. The injectable version. Why is this better? Why will patients want this?
Yeah. Well, first, we're very excited about this because I do think this is an important advance for cancer patients. Why this is important, this is an infusion you take under the skin. It takes about a minute. Today, if to go and have an IV inserted and to have it infused intravenously is about a 30-minute process. So we're taking 30 minutes down to 1 minute, and we're allowing patients choice. They can go to a community health center, they can go to a doctor's office. Today, they have to go to a hospital or to an infusion center. So it gives better choice to the patients. It's good for the system because it allows the system to have more capacity to treat patients. And as we look forward, the ability to bring the power of Keytruda to even more patients, especially in the earlier stages of disease, where you can hopefully start to think of cancer more as a chronic disease than as a life sentence. This allows you not to have to focus on your disease every moment.
Look, Keytruda has been an amazing development. It's been able to be expanded to so many different types of cancer. But there are critics out there who are saying, look, you're bringing this out now before the expiration of patent. This restarts the clock on the patent countdown. And you can look at Elizabeth Warren or other people who have said this is just going to make it more expensive for Americans. Why did it take so long to get to the point where you could do this? Because that does sound like a big difference for patients to have a 1-minute injection.
Yeah, well, obviously, because this is the combination of Keytruda, pembrolizumab, with another drug, an enzyme, we had to go through a full suite of clinical studies to be able to bring this forward. And so we've completed that work and we're bringing it forward. But I think one important point to raise is this does not extend the patent of the IV form of Keytruda. So we still expect to see generic competition, biosimilar competition for the IV form, but it allows choice. The patients can choose to stay on the IV and they could choose to go to a biosimilar if they'd like to, but if they would prefer to be able to have this where you don't have to have potentially a port inserted under the skin, which normally if you are being infused with chemotherapy or today with Keytruda, you have to have a port implanted. So to be able to potentially avoid that if you're on monotherapy in combinations with orals or in earlier stages, it's just better choice for the patients. So we don't see it as supplanting the IV, just giving more choice.
And you've talked about the fact that you're planning to price it at parity to the IV, but what exactly will that price be, and how are you thinking about how that pricing will change as the biosimilars do come in?
Yeah, so we're not going to announce the specific price until we get closer to actual launch. Hopefully it will be later this month. But you are correct, the goal is to generally price at parity with the intention to not make price a reason to avoid this drug. We want to drive adoption of this drug. And as we look forward, once biosimilars, our goal would be to probably move with the price. So this is not necessarily a price play for us. It is a way to drive and continue adoption of Keytruda in its form, in this new form, to drive for the value we can get for total access and coverage, not a price play. That's not why we did this.
And you've talked about, you think that 30 to 40% of people will move over to the shot from the IV. So how important is that, hitting those numbers to actually moving through and growing through that patent expiration?
Yeah, so it is part of our overall story, but we're so much more than that, to be honest with you. And as I mentioned to you previously, it is really, we are moving into a growth phase through new product launches. We have over 20 new assets, which will be launching over the next 5 years, over $50 billion of revenue potential. And as you look in oncology alone, while this is obviously, we're so excited about this continued invention with Keytruda QLEX, we have 10 other new oncology assets which will be launching in the next 5 years. So it's about that full breadth built on the base of Keytruda, and this 30 to 40%, but is important. But I'm as focused, if not more focused, on driving that new growth as I am on what Keytruda can be going forward.
Will any of those new drugs be as big as Keytruda? I mean, is this the biggest that we're going to see? It's this massive, $30 billion in sales last year. So can we see another drug like that, or is it going to be, a bunch of these smaller ones?
So as we look forward, of the 20 total assets I mentioned, 10 in oncology. We expect almost all of those to have blockbuster potential. Many of those can be into the multi-billion dollars. But I don't expect you'll see another Keytruda in that suite, but you never know. We actually didn't believe Keytruda would be what it has turned out to be. So we'll have to see. But our goal, if we can bring the breadth and the diversity of our pipeline, continue to build on the leadership we have in oncology, add to that growing opportunities to drive leadership in cardiometabolic, in ophthalmology, in HIV, to us, that is the approach that allows us for sustainable growth for the long term. And I'm confident in that, and that's why you've heard me say I see Keytruda as more of a hill than a cliff, and I'm already looking at how are we growing beyond Keytruda as much as I'm worrying about Keytruda itself.
Well, one of those areas, obviously, is vaccines. That's a big business for you. And I wonder, watching last week's meeting of the CDC's vaccine advisors, what you took away from that meeting and where you expect them to go next.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I hope people appreciate the benefit that vaccines have brought. We think of all of the preventable diseases that are out there: polio, measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough. You can go down the list. These are preventable diseases. These are devastating diseases if they happen. And so vaccines have been a critical part of public health, and we need to protect that. If you look at what the ACIP, the recommendations they put through, I didn't see that they presented any new science in support of the changed recommendation, and it did run contrary to years of scientific study supporting what was the existing schedule. So my concern is we need to make sure we continue to drive choice and we continue to preserve and protect this important benefit. And as we start to bring hesitancy to vaccines, my concern is people are going to not get vaccinated, and we're going to face diseases we thought were gone, and that will be a tragedy.
What have you seen just in terms of demand for Merck's vaccines to this point? We know that there was vaccine hesitancy that began after COVID. What's happened in the last year? Overall,
the vaccine hesitancy that you saw starting COVID is continuing. So it has not changed. I wouldn't say we've seen an acceleration yet of increased hesitancy, but it's something we're always watching, and it's something we all need to protect against.
Are you dismayed by what you've seen and heard, just in terms of what's being put out as scientific evidence and truth at this point?
Well, I guess what I would say is I put a lot of faith and confidence in our own clinical teams, in the years of study through robust clinical work that Merck and other pharmaceuticals have done. These are well-designed studies. They've been peer-reviewed. They've been reviewed multiple governments around the world. So I stand firmly behind the safety and effectiveness of our vaccines. And I want to ensure that people have choice, but I want them to have a balanced understanding of the benefit these bring and not avoid them due to misinformation. That's my concern. We need gold-plated science.